Hello card fighters, Chris here. We've got the week 3, that nice week 3 of the Nectar Bloom trial deck update. It's the last week for the Nectars, and they did pretty well. So as usual, we'll go through the deck first, and then we'll move on to the matches. So the deck's pretty much the same. There wasn't like a whole ton we added. The first change, you'll notice we only have one starter this time, so we're only running the one Ida. So before we were running two, just in case we wanted to copy it, but I found that with the addition of better units to copy, such as Green Shot Elf, and the Trial Deck Stride, which lets you call anything from your hand before like Asha's Stride skill goes off, it really just helped round out it, and you don't really need to run two starters because of that Trial Deck Stride. So I never found like I needed to copy the starter. I guess there was a couple times it would have been nice to copy the starter in the games I played, but it wasn't like game changing, like huge or anything. So we just dropped down to 1 so we could add, I believe, a grade 2 and kind of, keep our aggression up. Grade 3s are the same. It's 4 Asha, just here, gotta ride it. 4 Patricia. She was pretty good. Then the Bloom effect is pretty nice. It's also early game if that ever ends up being relevant. Then the one Maiden of Pistol Flower Pistol. This, I kind of regret this one. I don't think this was that useful. The ability was almost never relevant when it could have been, so it just ended up being a 9th grade 3 to stride with, which, it really could be anything else, and I might as well like change it to something more relevant. So in retrospect, I would change this to another grade 3, possibly with the Bloom effect. I know there's a 10k grade 3 in the Try 3 set that can retire itself to bring out a copy of something else. I think that's probably a better one to play, since it's just kind of one of tech. If you're looking to upgrade, of course you don't need the 9th grade 3 if you're running Stride Fodders. If you get your hands on those, but they're kind of expensive these days for whatever reason and not in budget. So this is where the extra starter went into. It became another 10k. I just thought, we want to be really defensive early. We want to try to guarantee that early defense, and maybe apply a little bit of extra pressure. Having two more grade 2s lets us be more aggressive on those early turns, and then we might not have to first stride the Trial Deck Stride to get a flip up. So that's actually really nice. I liked having the extra grade 2s, and then same as last time, 4 of the Green Shot Elf and 4 Enelma. These are your main copiers in the grade 2s, things you want to copy, get that power going, get your opponent crying because they have to guard really big numbers. And then we have 4 Perfect Guards. What did you expect? 4 Odette. This card, I mentioned it in the last week 2. It's insane how much this card helped the deck by itself. It's pretty crazy. So 4 Odette, number 1 card you should be looking to upgrade the deck with. And then this time we swapped out the Penelopes, I believe, to Maiden of Sweetberry. Maiden of Sweetberry can send herself back in the deck and call out a copy of any one of your other rear guards, so that is really nice because she just turns herself into whatever you need. Turns herself into another copy, so whether that's Odette's, whether that's Enelma's, whether that's Green Shot's, she's always just going to act as extra copies of that in your hand, so it really helps with the Bloom effects going off. Just to help up consistency with a good unit. Since Penelope is not amazing, and so there's a lot of times where I just like kind of have Penelope where I've already set up my board with Green Shots or Enelma's or Odette's, and then Penelope's just sitting in my hand when Maiden of Sweetberry is going to be able to turn into a copy of one of those and keep your power plays going. And then the triggers: 4 crits, 4 draws, 4 stands, 4 heals. Nectars have always been good with stands because of the high power. The draws, unfortunately, you kind of need them to get your grade 3s into hand so that you can consistently stride. And then crits and heals, some of the best triggers in the game, so those should be definitely included. And then the strides, there were some updates. We're still sticking with 3 Selfina. G-Guard into Selfina play is It's really good. Getting crit is definitely nothing to be underestimated, especially it helps out the fact that you can get a crit for a pretty cheap stride in the trial decks. We still have 4 of the trial deck stride. This often at times just gets flipped up with Selfina these days, but it is good if you have nothing on the field or nothing you want to copy on the field. You can just get it out there from hand. So the last 2 strides that we added this time were 2 Jingle Flowers. This card actually helped a lot. What it does is it gives your units plus 2,000 for every copy of some unit that you choose, and it gives all the units, so like you can give columns plus 8, super easy. And the best part about it is it doesn't use any counterblast. So this is the first stride in the deck that doesn't use counterblast to activate its effect. So there were some times where I didn't have counterblast. The game kind of ran long, and in the trial deck you don't have ways of countercharging. So having a stride that could, I could use it and it didn't need counterblast was really good. It was really nice. And then lastly, our classic A Gleam in Scryu for the G guards, and then we just added another Rain Breath Dragon just to help, things out. And there's some pretty neat plays you can do. Was it Odette? Yeah, so with Odette, so for example, if you have Odette in hand, you can keep it for a defensive play if you have one on the field. Use Rain Breath, call it, you can actually give plus 4,000 to Vanguard, and that's a nice defensive play that they have access to. So something to keep in mind if you're playing Neo-Nectars or learning Neo-Nectars, you can get a nice defensive play by using Bloom to give power to your Vanguard on your opponent's turn with the Rain Breath. So that was a really nice addition. So that's about it with the deck. We're just going to go straight on to those matches. Alright, so this time we have a 3-round tournament. It might have been a bit smaller than last time. Can't quite remember. Round 1, we had Dimensional freaking Robos, those guard breaking, shenanigan making robots. But I was able to clutch it out. I was able to guard. I was able to avoid getting guard breaked. I dropped my 1 PG and get a 3, then you got me. And a lot of times they just didn't get the 3, so it just worked out in my favor that time. And then there was one time where I was far enough ahead where I could guard like G guard, PG. Like I G guarded in 10k, so then I was like, okay, well, if he pulls a 3, he can break those 2. And then I just dropped like a ton of shield just to make sure that he would not be able to break through my defenses, because I was so far ahead. I knew that if I could just live this turn, I probably had the game. So that's kind of like the dichotomy you have to do against deeply. Sometimes you just gotta pray that they don't get the 3, and other times you can kind of just drop as much as you can, because you have a solid way to win the next turn. So that's pretty much it. I do think he misplayed a little bit. There's a very effective strategy in Dimension Police since Laurel. Commander Laurel gives a very strong pressure to the Vanguard, being that if it hits, it can restand. Crazy. So if I guard that, and my deck is very counterblast reliant, most decks are very counterblast reliant, I consider a misplay that he didn't use his rear guards to swing at my rear guards to kind of keep me at low or 0 counterblast. Instead, he would swing them into my Vanguard, give me damage, which let me push him back. So I think that was a little bit of a misplay on his part, but it is what it is. Played against Pale Moon in the second round. We got that 2-1. We just kind of trigger sacked him the first game. We pulled like grade 1 crit, grade 2 crit, and then followed up with more crits. It was pretty insane. And then game 2, he hit like an Exodia Soul. He put cards into Soul that he needed to call out and then get an extra attack. And then he attacked with them and then was able to put other cards into Soul and get more attacks. So he got like 5 attacks, and they were all like 26 to 31,000 power. And I couldn't live that. Like, there's not that much defensive power in this deck. So I just kind of got run over. And then game 3, we were rushing each other super hard. He used Darkside Princesses, forced the damage to me by like giving them +4, moving them into the Soul at the end of the battle, which was like debatably a good play because I was still like grade 1, so you could still got a swing out of them. But I guess I didn't get to swing and like try to deny him cards or counterblast. So there's a trade-off there, but I think because he moved them into Soul and he just didn't have as much cards to keep up the whole rush kind of game, that ended up hurting him because I like my cards stay on the field, so we both rush each other back and forth, and like he was pretty intense. But we got to like first stride. I think I got first stride, and I was able to clutch it out with the numbers that you pull out of your butt with Odette. You just like Bloom stride or Tridex stride, copy it, call another one, +4/+4, bounce it back to hand in main phase, call it again, +4/+4. Like, it's pretty good. Pretty good. And then the last round we played was Token Ranboo, the Man Sword Boys. We lost that one 1-2. It was pretty close. I think the only game we got was we just kind of got really lucky and we broke a 2 to pass. I did in game 1. I did Overguard. I was like, oh, like I really want to get Generation Break so that I can do the first stride Selfina play, but I kind of overthought things because I didn't have a card to stride with. So what I ended up doing was like calling 2 cards to guard with, and then having to stride with 2 cards. Then I wasn't left with any units to make the Selfina play, and so I was like, oh, that was probably not good. I should have just taken it and, you know, played things a bit slower. So lost 1 game of that, won a game, just, you know, triggers, being really offensive early. A good strategy for being offensive early is using your starter. Where does starter go? Starter. Call your starter to the side. I've probably mentioned this in some of the other weeks. You kind of call your starter to the side and use a draw trigger so that it hits 9, so it hits them up until they're grade 2, and then they don't really want to attack that because it's a draw trigger, but you can just, it doesn't hurt you because you just move it into Soul, give some power, and then free up that spot for a better unit later. So that's pretty good. That's how I got the 1 game. The last game, I just wasn't able to rush really hard, and so he ended up getting the upper hand because of, you know, the trial decks. What I found is they kind of run out of steam. So like they have some decent plays, maybe first or second strides, but they start to run out of steam. You don't have any countercharging engines. You've run out of cards to use. So yeah, we ended up just kind of like slowly dying, getting ground out, and that's about it. But very good showing for the Nectar trial deck. It's two wins and 1 loss. I think that's the best we've ever done with the trial deck, so let's go Nectar, let's go. And yeah, so 2 wins, 1 against Dimension Police, 1 against Pale Moon. Granted, Pale Moon was we were very trigger happy against Pale Moon, and we won the die roll against Dimension Police of not getting guard broken several times. So there was definitely some luck involved, but good job on Nectar for getting the 2-1 on the last week. Definitely a significant improvement, although maybe not like a huge improvement. The Maiden of Sweet Berries were very useful. I was able to copy Odette several times when I would have just had Penelope, which is not quite as good. And again, I mentioned earlier that Jingle Flower was very good. Situations later in the game, I don't have any counter blasts. I just use it all for my other effects. And Jingle Flower, get your field set up and get those high numbers without spending anything. So it's pretty good. Very happy with it. Sad to not be playing it, but excited for Brave, which is next. Thanks for watching, guys. Make sure you're subscribed for more trial deck evolutions. Comment down below if you have any questions, any thoughts about the video. Give a thumbs up if you liked it. It helps out a lot. And thanks to the patrons on Patreon for supporting this content. Really appreciate it. If you'd like to support like them, wait till the end slate pops up and click that orange P. Thanks again. Keep on learning, keep on having fun, and I'll see you in another video.